Hey, good people. This is your host Niraj, and welcome to my good place. I know you're here for the part 2 of the discussion on mental health. I know. But before we go to the discussion, let me quickly, please, do some house cleaning. So, if you are a first time listener, you stop by first time to check it out what this is. This show is called My Good Place, and in this podcast, we talk about or try to portray our ideal collective good place through conversation. We try to create my good place, your good place, our good place really through conversation and discussion. So, if that sounds good, please stay. Actually, this is the part 2 of the discussion on mental health, so please go back and listen to part 1 and come back to part 2 because it will make more sense, I think. But feel free to stay if you like. And now, to my returning listeners, last Tuesday was full of personal stories. I was receiving text, Instagram shoutouts right, left, and center. It was simply amazing. You guys told me it resonated to you. You guys told me it. You guys felt it. It made you emotional. It made you feel like you are not alone because of all the stories, experiences that were shared. So thank you. I want to thank my panelists again, and I want to thank everybody who reached out to me. Just know you are not alone, okay? And now this is gonna sound kind of corny, but if you can follow or subscribe wherever you're listening this podcast from, I would highly appreciate it. And if you are an Apple user and if you want to do something extra, please give me 5-star review. Make sure you leave a review with 5-star because with the Apple algorithms, it helps me go up the chart and become more visible, so everybody else can hear our story. So having said that, I have posted resources and helpline for mental health from US and UK on both episode notes, so feel free to check them out. And also I am on Instagram or Twitter at mygoodplacepod, so if you want to get in touch, feel free to DM me. And if you feel like emailing, you can email me at mygoodplace.pod@gmail.com. So the panelists, we all came from different backgrounds, as you heard in the last episode, yet we were all advocating for the importance of mental health because it is so fucking important. So I don't want to keep you guys too much waiting, so here is your part 2, which is also pretty loaded. So quick thank you and shout out to Ari, Kate, Avantika, Aaron, Anna, Yinka, and especially Sabina for helping me moderate the discussion. So here you go. And let's talk about who should be seeking mental health, because we talked about the challenges and why it is so sensitive and whatnot. Let's talk who should be seeking mental health and why is it important. And if you want to share any personal experience that when you thought you shouldn't be seeking but you that's a past tense, right? Yeah. So mental health and you benefited from it. So I am going to go to Yinka.
For me, from my experience, I want to say anybody, just because it also just, if you want to just degrade, it also just give you someone else to talk to. And sometimes that's what someone needs at the end of the day. So, because growing up, like you are just like taught to like internalize everything and things like that. And then you never really know what the next person is going through. It could be your family, it could be your friend or anyone. Like you talk to these people day in, day out, but like because you're internalizing and they're also internalizing, like you never really know what they're going through. So for me is I would just say anyone, to be honest. Like I I think like also growing up, because like when we see people going to therapy and things like that, we're perceiving these people as weak, but in all actuality they're not weak. They're actually, I feel like they're being smart for actually seeking help, and I myself or whoever is going through something else should actually seek help, because that's like the smart thing to do. But like, yeah, also I'll just say anyone, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. And I am gonna go to Aaron next. Who should be looking for mental health assistant, and why is it important, you think?
Yeah, I 100% agree with Yinka. I think like everybody has a mental health issue at some point or another, and I think having access to speak with a professional is really important. Just like with my own personal experiences with mental health issues, I think there's a huge cost of like trying to figure out what's going like wrong, or like just trying to identify like what's happening in your like state of mind where you're feeling like, for me it was really like anxious thoughts and like depression, where I went to like a psychiatrist to try to figure out what was going on. After like an hour conversation, he gave me like some pills to try to like help my sleeping, and he was like, we're going to try to focus on your sleeping and see if that's the root cause, because I was having like 3 to 4 hours of sleep a night. um, but then like actually going out and like continuing to talk to like a therapist was like the thing that I felt like helped me the most. It wasn't just like a one-off solution of like, here's a pill, go figure it out. I think that can be very helpful. um, like I definitely think that pills like have a place, but I don't think how quickly they can be given to people needs to be like changed. And like I think there needs to be more research before you give it after like an hour conversation. I didn't feel like heard after that, and I didn't feel like the solution like should have been solved that way. um so yeah, I feel like the biggest thing for me too is like not talking about it with family and friends all the time, because that can be really hard after a certain point to continually like, especially with your family, to like tell them that you're not feeling good, especially when you feel like they've put so much into like trying to create a good environment for you to get raised and stuff, but it's just out of their control. Like my dad especially was like trying to fix me and like trying to like solve it because he cares so much and loves me so much, but it's like I literally like what you're saying like just isn't how, like I just feel this like underlying issue that I don't want to talk about it with you because it's draining on both of us. Same thing with friends. It just feels like you're saying the same things over and over. So I think having a professional to talk to would be like my ideal state, like free like healthcare, like throw that in there 100% from like whatever age you're at. Like that would be my dream. Jumping ahead to like the good place question, but that would be it.
Man, you're ruining the question, like you're spoiling it. Nah, I'm
Sorry.
kidding. Okay, Anna, I am gonna come to you. What are your thoughts on who should be seeking mental health, and why is mental health important, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what's been said by everyone. Everyone has issues. They might not be clinical, but everyone has, going through this world, you get bruised, and it's really important to have someone to talk to about that. I think the world would be a much better place if everyone saw a therapist and was able to work through their issues. Um, yeah, I would say, from personal experience, if you are feeling out of control, go see a therapist, go get help. Don't wait until um until it's really negatively affecting your life. I think that's really important because eventually it's going to come to a head, like these things oftentimes you can't just solve them on your own. You have to get help.
Yeah,
And that's it.
no, definitely appreciate that. Ari, I am gonna come to you,
Um,
and yeah, sorry. Go for it.
That's all right. That's okay. Just to piggyback off of what Anna just said, yeah, if you feel like whatever is going on with you personally, whether it is environmental, biological, anything, if you feel like your mental health or like lack thereof is negatively impacting your life and harming you, then absolutely seek assistance, like professional assistance, whatever that looks like to you. Reach out, and yeah, don't suffer in silence, because, and this is coming from like the queen of suffering in silence, it's so hard to ask for help sometimes, especially if you have kind of like a perfectionistic tendencies. It can be really hard to admit that, you know, you're struggling, but it's so important to address it. And I think, like Yinka said, I think everybody should seek mental health assistance, but it also kind of depends on how you define it. So I think you do need to explore some options, and see what might be the best fit for you. And if you are planning to go into like mental health therapy, I think you should understand that you might hear some things that you feel like you're not ready to hear, or you might come across some things about yourself which can change how you look at yourself. And that's not always a bad thing, you know, like sometimes it hurts, but it does help you grow. But I think, yeah, it's really important to be self-aware and self-reflective and to kind of continue developing yourself. But it's also important not to get kind of too internally engrossed in that. And it can lead you down a rabbit hole. So I think, yeah, sometimes it requires assistance. I think it's important to evaluate yourself in a healthy way, whether that's with assistance or just kind of doing your own research. But yeah, in a kind of too long didn't read format, I guess I'd say everyone should at some point seek mental health assistance in whatever way they feel will benefit them best. Do your research. Be careful when self-diagnosing as well, because that can be pretty easy to do sometimes, but it can also be a little bit detrimental. So just be really careful, and yeah, make sure you're researching things and talking to other people who are feeling similar to you, or people who are professionally equipped to give you advice.
Definitely. And you're trying to tell me when WebMD told me I have cancer, that's not true necessarily. Okay, jokes aside, Kate, I'm gonna come to you. Who should be seeking mental health assistance, and why is it important?
Well, I agree with literally everyone should be seeking mental health assistance if they need it. And you know, if we had a broken leg, what would we do? We'd go and get assistance and we'd get help for it. So why do we feel the need we cannot ask for help when our mind's not healthy or we're not feeling good there, you know? And I am with Ari's group of, you know, the queen of not asking for help when she really needs it, but tells everybody else to do it. You know, I'm great at that. I've been marched to the doctors a couple of times by my husband because I'm like, I'm fine, I'm absolutely fine, Gary. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm perfectly fine, you know, not sleeping for 24 hours, sat here in my pajamas that I haven't been washed in for like 2 weeks. I'm fine. I'm not fine. And then when I've got there and I've got the help, I've realised how unfine I was, and actually terrified myself at one point because I had lived with it for so long that I thought what was going on was completely normal, and it was not. Again, therapy was one of the best things that I ever did. It's not for everyone, you know, and that is partly the issue. I think is a lot of it tends to funding affects what, you know, you have available. I know that is particularly the case in the UK. We do have a free healthcare system, which is an amazing privilege we do have, but it comes with its own problems, which is funding, and a lot of the time talking therapies are not provided to everybody. It's only when you have reached a certain level of crisis, or you are, you know, in a really difficult point in your mental illness, that you have access to that, which leads to its own problems again. You know, it ends up clogging the system because people aren't getting assistance until it's so far down the road. But for me, therapy was amazing because it was an impartial person. And like I know a lot of you have touched upon finding it difficult to speak to loved ones, which for the same for me, you know, you feel like one, you're burdening them, two, that you're afraid to be open in case that they worry and they, you know, they're afraid to let you go anywhere in case that you do anything, you know, which has been part of my worry as well, of losing, you know, autonomy through, you know, fear of your thoughts and things like that. But it's one of the most freeing experiences I ever had because I was terrified of therapy. I was terrified of telling a person, you know, that I thought were the darkest things I'd ever thought of, which she just made feel completely normal, you know, and I'd been worrying about it for years, thinking that's it, I am going to be locked away forever and I will never see the light of day again. And she's like, oh, it's completely normal. I've heard that happen so many times. And it was just like, it was just amazing. But the fear and anticipation to get to that point, you know, I get it, why it takes people such a long time sometimes to access it, because to, you know, be able to be vulnerable in that moment with somebody you don't know does feel utterly scary, but I cannot recommend it enough. And again, mental health with medication, if you need the medication, take it, because it does help. It's helped me. It's got me through some of the most difficult times. And I know Sabina was saying before about the baseline. I needed it for that reason, to get me to the point of me being able to do therapy and things like that and do exercises that I needed to do. So, you know, it's not all bad, but I wish they just didn't feed them to people and thought that that was the one fix for people, because it's not.
Definitely. Thanks, Kate. And Avantika, I'm gonna come to you. Who should be seeking mental health assistance, and why do you think it's important?
Well, I think everyone has already answered this, all of my points. And it's literally like, if you have a stomach ache, a very terrible one, and you're suffering, so you want to go to a doctor and have some medicine, right? It's literally the same thing. And I can't believe it took me such a long time to even get assistance. And it took my best friend to take therapy, and she having to convince me. I'm like, even thinking about it, I cringe about it, because I used to see ads online every time. I knew there are so many hotlines, so many people who took it, but it took my best friend to have her therapy and then convince me on a personal basis. So I can't believe if there might be so many people who will go their entire life without ever seeking help. And I thought I was, in America, I have this open mind, but I still had such a hard time seeking assistance. And I think last year when I lost my job, I knew everything, what my next step was. I was still hesitating to tell to people, okay, this is what happened. I was trying to network with people. Oh, I I lost my job and I'm trying to find a new job. But I think the main point for me to take assistance was when I started noticing, and I think Erin, Kate, and everyone talked about it, like the unusual behavioral patterns that you see. I was not sleeping well. I'm such a big foodie, but I was not eating well, and sort of had a personal internal dialogue about, okay, what's happening? What's going on? Which I never even took that time to talk to myself, and I used to find people saying self-care, and I found it so cliche, because I was just in that race of like, how everyone was talking about this race. So yeah, I think mental health, everyone and anyone literally can't stress this enough. Yeah, and everyone else has already pointed out like amazing points, so I'm left with nothing. Neeraj.
No, definitely. I think to echo everybody, the feel I got was take that one step. And after you take that one step, everything else just comes naturally, So, yeah, I see Ari Harry has something to add.
Yeah, and you take it in steps as well, because you can look at it as like you can see the whole forest, or you can see each tree in the forest, and it is definitely a process and a journey. So it's important to just like break it down into manageable pieces and try not to think of it as this like whole road ahead of you, because sometimes that can be really overwhelming just from personal experience. I mean, some people might naturally do that, but if you don't, it's definitely important to take it a little into
Definitely.
bite-sized pieces.
Yeah. And since we have Sabina here, who actually works in a professional environment with mental health, I'm gonna ask Sabina, Sabina, what she think, or who should seek help, and why mental health is important.
I think, as everybody was saying, everybody, but also like for those of you who kind of talked about, that Avantika, it took you so long to kind of seek help. I feel like give yourself a grace, because at that time you didn't know, because I think we are subconsciously, whatever, brainwashed in our culture, so give yourself a grace. But I'm so happy that you decided to go, and seek help. So I think everybody, to be honest, Neeraj, I always advocate for therapy all the time to my friends and family, because there are so many things, that therapy helps you untangle, right? There are so many things, there are so many techniques that the therapist will use to untangle those emotions. Sometimes we don't even understand. So I'm a big advocate for therapy. So I think everybody.
Yeah, we're basically just echoing each other's emotion and sentiment on this mental health. So moving on, I'm gonna try to make it fun, at the same time put you guys under pressure a little bit. So the questions I have for you guys next, I want you guys to give me answer in a sentence. I know it's kind of a lot of pressure, and whoever goes first is gonna be in more pressure. But as I have more questions. I'm gonna just randomly pick different people. So the first one will always not be the first one. Okay. And these are easy questions. Come on, I believe in you guys. All right, Kate. I know you're laughing, so I'm gonna come to you. Kate, what is one of the misconception you've heard about mental health? I can't hear you. I can't hear you, Kate. Something.
Now?
Yeah, now is better.
You can hear me now.
Yeah.
The wires are going a little bit. I would say mental health is misconstrued.
Okay.
That's my sentence.
Yeah, that sounds fair. I'm gonna come to Ari. Ari, one misconception that you've heard about mental health.
I guess that there are quick fixes for it. Things like exercising, eating right, meditating, and yes, all those things help, but it's not just a one-stop shop.
Definitely. Avantika, I'm going to come to you. One misconception of mental health.
That people who suffer from mental illnesses are crazy and a bit cuckoo. Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron.
Ditto.
Anna.
That's what I was gonna say.
That's fair. Anna, I'm going to come to you. One misconception you've heard about mental health.
Yeah, I think that like you'll get treatment and then you'll just be better and you won't have to deal with it, especially for like reoccurring issues, or if you have like a mental illness. Like I do therapy and take medication not to cure it but to manage it. it's not something that will ever go away. And I think sometimes people get impatient about that because a lot of other, when we go to the doctor, oftentimes it's to like get cured. Mental health is a bit more, I think, about managing.
Yinka?
For the sake of conversation, someone already said what I wanted to say, but I'm going to say something different, which is get rich and you'll be fine.
Yeah. Sabina, since you work in that environment, what common things you heard and what misconception you've heard?
I think it was Anna, right, who said like you just come to therapy, get some med, and have some session, and it's done. But yeah, I think it's a journey. It's a lifelong journey. Just to echo Anna. Yeah. So that's, I think, one of the misconception when people come to therapy or get services, that you take some medication and some session and it will be fixed. So I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions. So yeah,
Definitely,
it's a lifelong healing journey.
Oh yeah. One misconception I've heard is just eat some food, you'll be fine. You'll get better. Sleep it off. Okay. So next question we're gonna do on the same rapid fire style. So how can we support and talk more about mental health? I am gonna go to Aaron.
Is this one sentence or can I free fall?
Make it short.
I think access to resources is the biggest thing related to mental health issues and education. The biggest barrier I found with my experiences with it is the cost of trying to seek out help. Financial, like emotional, those types of costs. I think like trying different things out, trying to see what works, what doesn't. It's just really hard to, someone alluded to like self-diagnosing and not do that and feel like, for example, I was using like BetterHelp therapy, and that's $240 a month, and not everyone has like the financial resources to get that, and that's a big burden for me. But I have to decide to prioritize that with my own dollars, and I wish it was just like something that was given to everyone as a resource to try to help themselves, not fix, but like help themselves.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Aaron. Anna, I'm gonna come to you. How do we support and talk about mental health more?
I think we need to change our culture and what we prioritize, because I think that will help everyone, no matter if you have a mental illness or not. Or, I mean, I think a lot of mental illness nowadays is related to capitalism. So I think if we shift that, we'll really solve a lot of issues.
Definitely. Thank you, Anna. Ari, how do we support and talk about mental health more?
Normalization, for sure. Normalizing human emotion and not linking it to any gender stereotypes or stereotypes of any kind, really. Normalization and acceptance, I would say.
Yeah, normalizing is key. Avantika, how do we talk and support mental health more?
Changing the narratives from our house, it's where it starts from. So my capacity would be that, starting from my house and my friends, talking about it more.
Yeah. Thank you. Yinka, how do we talk and support?
Also, like giving people more access. I would just say also from our home, like also for yourself and people within you, just creating a safe space where personally you're able to like process feelings, but also people around you where they feel like you could talk about certain things, and Just for context, so like I personally am a type of person where like I tend to deal with my issue. I have like a scale of priority or like an hierarchy of like things. I deal with my issues. I feel like this one has more priority than this. But like I know people that are able to like touch on different issues at the same time, you know, and then having conversations with them. And then sometimes when they share what they're going through, I've realized in the past where like I would just downplay it because I would think it wasn't important, or like I would think there's more issues to worry about, you know. But like there's also just creating space for people where like they're able to feel less pressure talking to you about it, you know, talking to you about your issues. They're able to trust you, and they feel like you will just listen to them and just give them your 2 cents, basically.
Definitely. Thanks, Inga. Kate.
There we go. Yeah, I definitely think we need to normalize it. That it needs to be a priority. Starting from school and education, that seems to be really prevalent with mental health now more than ever. And younger children are suffering with mental health issues. So for me, it needs to start from a really early age. Normalization and giving people the opportunity to have a safe space to talk openly about how they're feeling, and that needs to be funded properly. I mean, there's no getting around that. And the other question I floofed before, the misconception, I think, that there are no positives with mental health, like it's all negative, and that isn't the case at all. I mean, I think it can make you the most empathetic person going, you tend to understand people on a deeper meaning. So for me, it's not just the negative we need to look at either. We need to look at the positive aspects, and even though it does sometimes come from dark places, it can give you such a better outlook on things than somebody that may not have been impacted by mental health.
Yeah, and just quickly to add something to that, I think when you go and talk to somebody, it gives you a different perception, something you might not be looking at. You might be looking at things a certain way, and they might show a different way of looking at that situation, So I'm gonna come to Sabina's. Sabina, what's your take on this? How do we support and talk more about mental health?
I think having a space like this and having a dialogue like today definitely help, support or like kind of help with the biases and stigma. So we have to talk more. We have to have dialogue like this more often. So thank you, Neeraj, for creating the safe space for everybody. So yeah.
Thank you. And also, moving on, and this I have to bring the podcast in, right? So I'm gonna go to Ari. What is your ideal good place from mental health standpoint? One sentence, or if you're gonna be longer,
Can I
be short.
Can I ask for clarification? Do you mean like a good place for me personally from a mental health standpoint, or in general for everyone?
That's a good question. Something I have not thought of. Let's do it from your standpoint, because we're talking about personal experience and perspective. Let's do it from your perspective.
Okay. For me personally, my good place with mental health would be to get to a point where I feel like I have more emotional resilience to factors of stress, and less internalizing of flaws and issues and failures, and more internalizing of successes, no matter how small they might be, especially during times when, one of the hardest things to do is just to like get out of bed and make something to drink or eat, or even just have a shower. For me, it's really important to kind of mark down all of the little steps in the right direction. So yeah, I mean, ideally, I would like to be better at that. I'd like to be less self-critical, more resilient and just kind of less afraid to just show my true colors, I guess. I do feel like very boxed in society sometimes, and not necessarily that I'm like a very eccentric person, but I just kind of get really tired of like following social norms and expectations sometimes. So to just feel more comfortable in my own skin, I guess, would be my good place.
Perfect. And we are gonna go to Yinka. Yinka, what does your good place look like from mental health standpoint?
I think my good place from a mental health standpoint would just be a place where I'm able to like put less pressure on myself, in the sense that like thinking I should be doing better than I am, where in all actuality I've actually been better than where I was looking to be, pretty much. And also just like being able to just be open, to new things, being able also to just acknowledge myself and my areas of my flaws and things like that. I also be my good place, and also just like being able to express things, pain points where I'm feeling in regards to like relationships, not just waiting till when it gets too much and then I cannot help it anymore. Just like being able to express almost immediately that this is something that doesn't work for me and things like that. So I would say, yeah, that definitely be my good place.
Definitely. Thank you. And I am gonna go to Kate next.
Oh, my good place. I would be less reactive. I would be confident and forgiving of myself, and wouldn't focus on, obviously we need to focus on big mistakes, but the minute things that I will ruminate on for hours and like literally rip everything apart. And then, that's it. I don't want to go out tomorrow. I don't want to see anyone. I'm not in a peoply mood. That I'd like to get rid of all of that, and just, be able to not worry all the time. Worry is the biggest thing for me, is one of the problems that tends to seep into every area of my life, whether that's my relationship with family, friends. Like, worry is a big problem, so I'd like to get rid of that. What else would I like? And therapy, like most people have said, just everybody have the opportunity for therapy. And it be free and easy, whether that's on the telephone, if somebody would like to go to have a physical contact with somebody. Just have more opportunity for people to have the freedom, like myself, of being able to access that kind of help a lot more easily than an 18-month waiting list, which I know there's two. You've got the cost in America of having to pay for this yourself. Here it's a waiting list which could be up to 2 years, which we know for mental health is, it's a scary place to be when you know that you aren't in a good place. So yeah, open therapy. Yeah, I think that's everything. And just lots of dogs.
Hell yeah.
I'm a
Love
little
it.
smudge. Just if everybody had a dog, I'm telling you, the world would be a better place. Just get a dog, everyone. The best
Hell
therapy.
yeah.
Best therapy.
Love it. Okay, Aaron, you kind of spoiled it earlier, but I shall forgive you. Okay, I'm kidding. What does your good place look like from a mental health standpoint?
The two things for me are to know myself and to love myself. And I try to remind myself of that when I'm feeling very anxious. So like this Friday, I was having a really bad anxiety day. And I knew that it was because I had a really bad night's sleep. And then I drank 2 cups of coffee, which just made me like start to have physical symptoms of anxiety. And it was like peaking during a presentation I was giving to my team as a manager. So I was like getting in my head about, oh my gosh, like, can they hear me stuttering when I'm talking? Like, can they see me shaking or hear me like mumbling in my voice? And then just like kind of riding that experience out and giving myself grace is like loving myself and acting on that knowledge of like, I'm just having like a rough day and not taking it too seriously, and understanding other things like going outside, getting some fresh air, doing like breathing exercises has helped me a lot. And running is like the biggest thing that helps me cope with my anxiety. I think just for, I know everyone isn't capable or physically able, but I would say like any type of movement or fresh air, I think is really accessible for anyone to do and it's free. So I've been trying to be aware of those things, especially during COVID, feeling lonely sometimes, like, okay, I should call my parents or my friends, just reach out to people. And a lot of the time you just find that you're not alone and that other people feel that too. And I think that's the biggest thing is just try not to be like alone. Yep.
Thanks, Aaron. And Avantika, what does your good place look like from mental standpoint?
Mine, stop stressing about things that are not in your control. So that's been my number one thing. Don't beat yourself up. It's okay. Things happen. But think about it, reflect, and just not everything is in your control. And yeah, that's I think everyone's point was so good. I don't know what I'm about to say, but that's the number one thing that was circling in my head. Just stop stressing about things that are not in your control. Like maybe like accepting the situation, but yeah.
Thank you, Avantika. And I am gonna come to Anna.
Yeah, I think not acting out of fear, not doing things because I'm afraid, just like trying to, sometimes it's just shutting my brain off, more, I think, getting more in that mindset, which I think is really hard being in the same physical location every day to like shut your brain off. But I think that would be wonderful. And yeah, get in better self-care habits. I feel like sometimes I'm really good at it, but I think other times I'm just not. So really, prioritizing that over just going all the time.
Yeah. When the feelings and emotions just overwhelm you, just to have that switch off button would be such a nice feature inbuilt in our brain. And I'm talking like Black Mirror shit. So if anybody has seen the show. Anyways, I'm gonna come to Sabina. Sabina, let's talk about your good place from mental health standpoint.
I think for me, not feeling guilty when I'm not productive, because not every day is a good day. I try to give myself a grace, and celebrating those small victories. Even you get out of your bed and take a shower, and so giving myself a grace and not feeling guilty when I'm not being productive.
Yeah, for sure. I think we can all kind of resonate to that. So as we're getting closer, very close to the end of the discussion, I want to go around and talk about the conclusion that we learned. If you've learned anything new, and also want to show appreciation to your fellow panelists. I want to go around and do that. So Sabina, you want to start, because I don't want to put all the panelists on the spot. So as a moderator, I'll go at last. obviously. But Sabina, if you want to do a takeaway and then say something or more than one thing about our panelists.
I think everybody kind of, even though we come from a different culture, different background, when it comes to mental health, the stigma and the biases seems similar. The expectation of the society of what's normal, what is success and all that. It kind of made me realize that we have the same concept when it comes to mental health, and just healing is a journey. Healing is a lifelong journey. Give yourself a grace. And I'm so thankful to be here with you guys to hear your stories. It's an honor for me. And thank you, Neeraj, for this opportunity. I feel really blessed. You guys made my day, because I'm so passionate when it comes to mental health, and that's what I'm trying to do in my community. Neeraj knows about. That's my mission, to kind of create awareness when it comes to mental health in the Nepali community. So it was an honor, guys. So thank you so much.
Definitely, Sabina. Thank you. Yeah, I was talking to Sabina and she started talking about mental health. She works in the environment and then how passionate she was. I'm like, okay, fun fact, I'm doing a podcast on this topic and would you like to moderate? So it was good. Ari, the same question to you. What is your takeaway? And if you want to show appreciation to your fellow panelists in your own word.
So much to take away. I think the biggest thing, like what Sabina said, I think it's really interesting that although we all come from very different backgrounds, we can all relate in one way or another to each other through our mental health, and that we all have kind of similar perceptions. I think we kind of owe that a little bit to globalization as well. It's interesting that we can all be on the same page with each other despite like cultural differences. I think, yeah, like technology is amazing for that. And I really appreciate the opportunity for all of us to be together and discussing this, because it is so important. And I mean, even if only 3 people listen to it, that's 3 lives potentially changed, which is pretty cool. But I mean, if I'm gonna I guess be specific about appreciation, I just want to say to you, Anna, that I really am touched by how open that you've been. I mean, all of you have been very open, but I just wanted to say, I understand that must be something that's still quite raw and not easy to talk about. It's something that you deal with every day with OCD, and I just really admire you being open and vulnerable and honest about it. And I think that's so important. So thank you, all of you.
Thank you, Ari. And I'm going to come to Anna. So if you'd like to respond to that, and if you want to talk about your takeaway from this discussion and show some appreciation to other panelists.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Ari, for that. Yeah, I think a big takeaway is that, I mean, we're all kind of burned out by, our current system. That's scary, but it's also, I feel like it's such a opportunity to change our current system. If there's, people from all parts of the world that are all feeling this same way, shows how much we need to change it, and that there's momentum and a want to change it. So that definitely makes me optimistic. Yeah, I wanted to thank Kate. It's lovely to hear that someone else also has the same fears of, I don't know, getting found out. I mean, it's sad that that's a fear that you also have, but it does make it, I don't know, it definitely made me feel less alone in that. So thank you.
Wow. Thanks, Hannah. Guess what, Kate? I'm coming to you now.
Hello. Oh, thank you so much for being so sweet and saying that. That means a lot. And likewise to yourself and everybody here tonight have been incredibly brave and vulnerable you know, and it's not an easy thing to do. I mean, gosh, sweaty hands, guys. Very sweaty hands when we're talking about these things. It's hard. It is really hard. But yeah, I really appreciate everybody's story that they've told today. And like everybody has already said, you know, it just goes to show it doesn't matter where we are in the world, you know, it is happening to all of us. And we all feel the same, that the changes need to be made wherever we are. You know, therapy needs to be available. We need to be more open. And the other thing I noticed as well, that a lot of our experiences we've noticed is a generational thing as well. And if, you know, we can start from our generation and make that change, then hopefully, you know, there won't be a trauma that gets passed along. You know, we can be, you know, that positive change. So the next generation maybe, you know, does have, you know, more opportunities to talk openly and feel less, you know, difficult about being vulnerable and open about how they're feeling. So yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure, guys, honestly. And you know, my takeaway is, you know, no matter who we are, where we are, we all can be vulnerable. We all can need, you know, that little bit of comfort from somebody. And you know, 5 minutes of, you know, giving your time to somebody to express how they're feeling can obviously make all the difference, because all of us here have done it, and we're here talking about it. So that's got to say a lot, hasn't it? And you're just ultimately brave people. You know, you're fighting it, and everybody's fighting the good fight every day. I've got to be proud of you guys for that, because it is bloody hard, guys. It's really hard. But yeah, be proud of yourselves, and be happy that you've been vulnerable and brave today. I think you're awesome.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And also when Ari talked about globalization and access of internet, which brought all of us together, I just wanted to throw a quick note. Ari and Kate are my UK OG advisors. They always give me good feedbacks, and I always go to them to talk to these topics and discuss about the podcast too. And not related to mental health only. We talk about different topics and whatnot.
And about
So,
our pet dogs too.
oh yeah, we were talking about dogs too. Okay, Avantika, your takeaway, and if you want to show appreciation to your fellow panelists or in general to everybody.
Well, firstly, thank you, Neeraj, because when you first approached me, I was like, I'm not qualified for this. I can't. And he said, like, you said, like, this is exactly like you have to be. So thanks for being so, you know, non-judgmental and just letting me in here, because I didn't think that I would I would be so welcomed in this group. So thank you for making that space, making this happen. I know like organizing logistics is hard. We're just here to talk right now, but I know everything is hard. So thanks to Neeraj for being very proactive, and good luck with everything. And I hope you call us more often and organize this. And I hope we all stay in touch, because I really enjoyed this session thoroughly.
Definitely.
And Sabina too. I'm sorry.
No, Sabina is she is super friendly. She reaches. We don't have to seek out to her. She seeks to us. Like, oh, do you need help? Do you need help? So Sabina is that kind of person. She is awesome. Okay, Aaron, how are you feeling about the discussion? I know you've been on the discussion before. And yeah, how are you feeling, buddy?
Well, yeah, thanks again for having me and everyone else on. I always feel really good after these conversations. It makes me feel like more open to being vulnerable in the future about my own experiences. And then also just hearing other people's experiences or from around the world. It's really interesting. I think that was called out a few times as a takeaway. I think it's like specifically like Anna and I are, we actually live in the same building, and I asked if she wanted to be on this, and I'm really happy that she said yes right away and shared her experience, because I think we can all learn a lot from Anna, and I've certainly learned a lot from her as in her friendship. And then also, Kate, I really appreciated what you said about like the positive sides, I suppose, of some of these issues, and the things that we can learn from them. Like for like my anxiety, for example, like it's not all bad all the time. I feel like my anxiety gives me a perspective that can help me do other things, be kind, be graceful to other people. And I feel like it's really important to acknowledge that, because mental health isn't just an issue, it's also just our day-to-day interactions with each other. And that's not all bad, it's just us being human and trying to be better, I suppose. Yeah. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you, Aaron. Yinka, I'm gonna come to you, but so if you have any takeaways and if you want to show appreciation to your fellow panelists.
Yeah, definitely. I think my takeaway so far, I think the most interesting part is like, for me during this conversation is because like we're so from different parts of the world, but we have also seen similarities in the way our nurture has like developed us in this sense. So that's definitely been interesting to me. But also I want to thank Niraj and Sabrina for actually setting this up. Like, funny story, like Niraj actually texted me and he actually double texted me like 2 days after, because like this is not like an environment where I'm used to being, but like I'm definitely glad like I accepted and like I partook in this session. I think it's not easy. It's a blessing because you guys just started off being so open, like it's not easy just getting on a Zoom call with like strangers from different parts of the world to just start talking about yourself and things like that. So for me, I'm definitely glad to have been able to share this with you guys. Also to just listen to your experiences so far, because like that also made me open to be able to be comfortable to actually have these conversations. So I want to appreciate everyone for actually being on this session. And I think next time when you ask me, I'll be like, yes, I think I'm interested.
Yeah, a funny story. Yinka and I were hanging out yesterday, and he was still not sure if he wanted to be here. So I definitely appreciate Yinka. And see, my takeaway or appreciation, everything putting together, thank you is such a overused term. I wish there was a term which you could use exclusively for these kind of occasions, because I'm very thankful for all of you for being vulnerable and sharing your personal stories, because like everybody said, these stories are not easy to share, and especially most of you don't know each other. Like all of your common ground is me, and that's and a lot of the story I didn't even know, so I'm really appreciative of what you guys shared, the talks we had. And what I always say, we individually, on an individual level, us humans are unique. That's what makes our world so much fun. We have different agendas, different goals, but innately, in the collective, we all want love. We all look for support. We're a social being. We have so many similarities. So yeah, I just want to conclude with that, and I want to appreciate each and every one of you to be more open, try to be more open. And thank you for being vulnerable, sharing this space with each other. And hey guys, how are you? How are you feeling? Out of everything that's been heard, discussed in this 2 parts, if you want to take away one thing, just one thing, I suggest mental health is equally, if not more important than physical health itself. So let's talk about it. Let's look up about it, help each other, and let's try to normalize this discussion on mental health. Do not hesitate to express yourself. If you're feeling low, if you're feeling sad, talk to your friend, talk to your family, talk to somebody, maybe a professional, so you are not alone, okay? So next week, the topic of discussion is counterculture. I am gathering a panelist who are really the trailblazers in their own way. So they've gone against the tide of the cultural norm. So if that resonates with you, if you're looking for inspirations, it will be that. So I will see you there next Tuesday. Let me know what you guys want to hear. And I am on social media like Twitter or Instagram at mygoodplacepod. And if you have any feedback, you can email me at mygoodplace.pod@gmail.com, and you can leave me a voicemail too if you want on 612-524-8235. And finally, if you are interested to become a participant, have a conversation like these, there's a form I have created. It's called participation form. It'll be on the link that I have posted on my social media bios like Instagram and Twitter. Find it, fill that out, and I will reach out to you. Okay? Until next Tuesday. Bye.